All right, here we go. Another video, left, right, out. Hang on one second. I'm driving. Like I said, I do some of my best thinking either when I'm driving or in another place where we don't want to film. So, Merry Christmas, holiday season, and whatnot. A lot of busy stuff. That's one of the things for me. I've been busy, so I'm trying to put out videos, trying to do some analysis, trying to stay in touch, but it's been really tough. I wanted to go over one thing when it comes. I've heard there's a lot of conjecture with this, verdict with the Mesa cop that killed the guy that was crawling on the ground, or he had crawling on the ground, or he didn't. It was the guy that was giving the orders, and he was acquitted. We can look at that in a number of different ways, but my view of that has been, not taken lightly, I guess. My background gives me a little more credibility in this realm. I don't want to get into that too much, but anyway, because it doesn't matter. It matters a little bit to have that kind of a background to make an analysis, but it's not the end-all be-all. It doesn't mean if you don't have any law enforcement experience or any military experience that you can't have an opinion on such topics, especially when there's clear evidence and video footage. Now, one of the things that I when I was going through my I watched the video, I watched it a number of times, I took account of my initial reaction, and then I analyzed it, watching a number of other times, and then reading a little bit about on the topic or whatnot. And I don't know for sure. I've heard different rumors about what evidence was suppressed to the jury and what wasn't. I'm not going to concern myself with that in my analysis of the situation, because regardless, he was acquitted, and in the eyes of the justice system, he is a free man. He might never be a police officer again, but he is a free man, and more power to him. I feel sorry for the gentleman, his family. It's a tragic situation. But okay, so my initial analysis when I saw the video, listening through my perspective, the initial thought on it, with my background and with just being inquisitive and very empathetic, I think that was an unjust killing, and that shooting should have never happened. And I'm waiting for the comments if people actually watch this about how, oh, you're not there, you have no idea. I mean, cops go every day. I understand that, and believe me, I've been in a career field in a law enforcement perspective that gives me a certain credibility with this, but regardless, like I said, the background doesn't really matter. Looking at that, how training is done, especially in the military, when it comes to like combat hunter and whatnot, where you do analysis of crowds of people, the way individuals act, knowing your situation. That kind of training could have prevented this shooting, in my opinion. Reason being, by looking at the body camera footage that we do have, and knowing some of the backstory when they came to this scene. Granted, there was supposedly a brandishing of a weapon, or a weapon that was seen by some individual. They come on scene, they get the individuals out of the room, or the two that they know of, and they had really no problems with the female getting her back and securing that suspect. Now, I have some quibbling with the way the orders were given, and that's another thing. The communication aspect. One, the officers, just like anybody in such a position of authority, should be able to analyze the situation and be able to notice the two suspects are either intoxicated, and they should know the degradation of abilities physically and mentally when those subjects are being interacted with, even if they say that they understand all orders. But knowing that in the totality of that situation, they should have adjusted the way they communicated. Second, when we get straight to the way they're dealing with that individual with the orders, knowing the totality of that situation from the officer's perspective, or at least from my limited perspective, but understanding his body language, the nervousness, the inebriation, his overall demeanor, and his general body language, you could tell, in my estimation, I would have rather had when he I immediately, oh man, his pants are going down. So he instinctively, especially when you're inebriated, sometimes you do things instinctively because you're consciously not quite there to make those decisions, those rational decisions, even however small they may be. So he goes down for his waistband, yes, and then immediately he's fired upon. From the officer's perspective, I look at that and I see there was a lack of PID, which is positive identification, and that's what is required a lot in the military, or at least before, you know, we've got an actual commander-in-chief in place. And even so, you still need PID. You still need to positively identify things. You still need to verify, you know, that this guy's a threat. So I didn't see the positive identification of a weapon or an intent to harm anything. I mean, his whole body language. Granted, you have to always keep your head on a swivel, and remember that if you are in a law enforcement military watching this now, always keep your head on a swivel. And be cognizant of your situation, not just that individual, but the individual you know that possibly might be in that room. And I understand why they had him crawl, especially when you're right near the doorway. You got to get him out of there just in case he does make a sudden move, and it makes the situation a little hairier. But even in that regard, in the civilian atmosphere, I would rather taken that chance and let him go in there and then reassess the situation from a planning perspective. But at the same time, in their train of mind, which I understand, in that heat of the moment, that was the best course of action. And you know, a plan that might not be the best plan that's executed viciously or with the way they did it is better than the greatest plan in the world not executed at all. So I understand where they're coming from. That's not a bad way to do things anyway. So that he was coming out, you know, he initially fell to the ground, grabbed his waistband, and pop, 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 he's done. Like I said, I tend to err that was at least a manslaughter. I think the officer he probably did what he was trained. I've been through some of the training down there in Arizona with some of the police forces, and they do a hell of a job. Awesome guys down there, and I know some of them. They're great. But like all police forces, there's a struggle, especially with the demands of getting the proper training. There's a struggle with, you know, the hours these guys work and the pressures they are put under. So I understand that perspective as well. We could talk about his weapon and the little insignia on there, but that is, and I don't believe that the police force should have that. That is something I see commonly, you know, in the military, which I don't really have that much of a problem with it. I know that a lot of commands do, especially when it comes to being so flagrant, like when you have insignia or something that's insinuating killing or whatnot. I don't really have too much of a problem with that. I do know that it does set that mindset, and it does have a psychological effect. Anyway, that is my analysis on it. I believe it was a murder, or at least manslaughter. But the justice system is the way it is. I think that he's a free man. But looking at the totality of the circumstances from what we've been told as civilians, what went on in the body camera footage, and what I know about operations and training and whatnot, that this could have been prevented really easily. And yeah, not only from the man that was killed's perspective, which I think he had a little less to do with it than the officer, but definitely from the officer's perspective, could have been prevented. And it's sad, and it's a tragic loss of human life. Anyway, stay tuned, subscribe, like. I'll have some more analysis, even controversial analysis like this. And you can disagree with me and still watch me. Anyway, have a good one. Bye.